Well, I've been in the gym since I was probably really in the gym, probably since I was 16, 17 years old. And that's when I got bit by the bug. I fell in love with it very quickly. So I've been training consistently for a long time now. And I'm curious your thoughts on this, because as I talk to people, even people who just start working here at BPN, and they've never spent much time in a gym before, and they might have come from like a class background or a CrossFit background where they're moving through these movements, which is one style of training. But then I talk to people who either just start here at BPN, like I said, or are recently introduced to like a bodybuilding style of training program, and trying to teach them how to feel the movement. That's the reason I share I've been training since I was 16, 17 is I've developed muscle. I've trained a lot. I can feel movements like you can feel movements. Like, you know, if you're doing a pull up right, you know, if you're doing a pull through right, and the way you're contracting the muscle and you get the pump and where that blood flow is moving into the muscle, like you can feel it the whole way through, which is one of the reasons I love bodybuilding.
Yeah.
And bodybuilding training is I can actively, in that moment, in real time, feel the muscle that's being trained. But trying to teach someone that's just getting started that, I found is oftentimes difficult because they don't have that mind-muscle connection. They don't have that muscle that's built. They don't understand what a pump is. How do you kind of help people navigate from just getting started to when they can finally feel those movements? Because I feel like when you feel those movements, it clicks.
Oh, yeah. Well, man, a lot of thoughts come up. Number one, that is why the first, call it 6 to 7 years of my training were so impactful on me too. It's like I started at 13 years old, I got my first Gold's Gym membership and would go there with my brother. And, you know, he was a little bit older, and when he could drive, then he would drive us to the gym, or when he wasn't old enough, my mom would drop us off. And it was really like all those years of just doing every machine in the gym and just doing 3 sets of 10 on it. Like, eventually you start to feel things and you start to learn because you've gotten the repetitions. So one side of the coin is like, you have to put in the time. You can't fast track somebody to feeling a mind muscle connection, because that's what develops over years and years of muscle maturity and learning movements and putting in the time and developing the tissue. So on the one hand, hey, like, you're gonna have to put in the time, and over maybe a year, 2, 3 years, they're gonna start to get it more. But I really valued that so much. And I also value, like, when you work in a more controlled contraction bodybuilding style of training, you have a much higher likelihood of starting to feel that, rather than if you're moving fast and in less controlled ways, in more of a boot camp or class-based system where it's like, just go, go, go. It's harder to sort of feel those things. The other thing that I also remember too from like my early years was being inspired by bodybuilders and seeing them posing. And I think I started to try and learn how to pose and flex my muscles, which was a very stereotypical teenage boy thing to do. But it creates mind-muscle connection.
It's very true.
Yeah,
it's very true.
You learn how, like, you know, to do a rear double bicep pose. Like, you have to understand what's happening with your upper back, and, you know, contract your lats and biceps and squeeze muscles together, and, you know, flex your glutes and hamstrings and calf muscles. And, you know, you to get good at it and to start looking at the muscles while you're flexing, like, that builds. Those are isometrics. You're just doing isometric contractions, which is another great way for people to learn mind-muscle connection. So in what I just said, like, though I pulled out, okay, what are the tools and the physiological, you know, things that we can touch on to get people to feel that? Control, moving slowly. That is huge for people. When they move fast and they get on a machine and they just rip on it, there's very little mind-muscle connection and feeling of a pump and knowing which muscles to contract. When you get people to move slowly and you prescribe tempo to their weight training, then you increase the likelihood that they're going to feel it, that they're going to start to draw those connections, which is essentially what you're talking about. So in programs and in training and coaching people with new beginners, it is essential that I always teach people the importance of training with tempo. Like, you're going to do a 4-second eccentric on your squats. Not because it's better than doing it faster, it's just they have a better chance at staying safe, being in good positions, and feeling what we want them to feel. Because we want them to connect to what they're doing. So more slow eccentrics for beginners, and then utilizing isometrics a lot, which as you get advanced, both of those things generally people stop doing them as much. It stopped becoming as important. It's just like control the weight, move it up, right? Whereas for a beginner, it's like slow it down, pause in the stretch position, contract, press it up, hold your last rep for 15 seconds at the top, support yourself in a dip, hold planks, hang from the pull-up bar with your chin over the bar for 15 seconds. These tools that can just be written into programs, which is how I write a lot of my programs, because we're taking in people that have never done proper bodybuilding or strength training progressions, or they're even just intermediate trainees and that missed that in the early days of their learning. These are really powerful ways to coach people to get it sooner than we got it, because it took years for us to really feel it all.
Right. And there's levels to it.
Of course.
When you have those, I'm thinking right now as you were explaining that, I had a workout earlier this week. It was the chest workout. And it's one of those ones from the first set you do, you can feel everything throughout the movement. I was doing push-ups, and it was prime conditions where every rep, it almost feels like you can, I can close my eyes and watch the muscle fibers contracting and swelling. And you're like, oh, hell yes.
Yeah, well, that sounds like Arnold in Pumping Iron right there.
For real, yeah.
Yeah, and
he's not lying.
No, he's not. And most people will probably not ever get to that point where they appreciate that level of visualization in the training. But it is special for those of us who get it. And I mean, I kind of felt that way too today. I jumped on that chest press, Arsenal chest press machine, and I'd never been on that particular machine, and it just set up perfectly for me. I was like, wow, first rep, this is working really well for me.
Well, you can tell Arsenal was made by bodybuilders.
Sure.
Because those machines hit so well. I love going to some of these older gyms, and they have the old pre-core machines, and some of those older machines, just the leverages and the way they move hit the muscle so well. That's why I love chasing a pump in the gym. I will do things to set conditions to get the best pump ever.
Yeah.
I'll strategically place carbs and sodium and use pump ingredients around a workout.
Yeah.
And if it's the right conditions, here in Texas, you get some heat, some humidity. It's all this cascading ingredients for the best pump ever. But I can feel every contraction. And I think a lot of people who've never experienced a pump before think that it's just this vain thing you experience to make you look bigger. But in my opinion, it's a performance amplifier because you can feel a movement and you can manipulate that movement to get a better feel and activate the muscle in different ways.
There's two things that are coming up for me as you're talking. Number one is that you might have the science-based bodybuilders out there right now saying the pump is just it's all about mechanical tension. It's all about, stretch, tension under stretch. These are the things that actually get you the most results. The pump is just it's an afterthought. There's a lot of things that I have done in my training experience and coached to people, or at least valued and appreciated, that might not necessarily be the most evidence-based scientific way to grow muscle and to build strength. And the reason is because I just see you talking about it and lighting up and being so stoked on it. So why would I tell you, if that was true, hey, the pump's really not that important, Nick? Sorry, you just probably shouldn't be paying attention to it, when that alone is getting you so fired up to go and work hard.
Yeah.
That's the thing that motivates you and drives you in the gym. And that's true for a lot of what I do with my training programs. It's like we might implement kettlebell complexes, for strength training and some movement variety. And someone's like, some keyboard warrior's like, well, that's a waste of time. You should just go and do single arm presses, and or barbell presses and a lat pull down. And I'm like, but there's a lot of people that get fired up to go and train with kettlebells. Even if it's not the best way to build muscle, and even if it's not the best way, like forget the best way to do things and focus on things that people aren't excited and inspired to do that are going to get them to show up consistently and give some hard work. And if it's the pump and people are into that and like getting your salt right, getting a little pre-workout, getting the right pump, supplement, the right temperature, getting them sweaty, like turning the fan off for a little bit so they just start to get, that heat going, like go for it and make that a priority, because that's what's, and flexing in the mirror, like whatever works for you. The other thing that I thought about was truly to the pump is, and I talked about this yesterday with some guys. I said, when the question was like, hey, I'm kind of new to training. Like I've never done anything. I'm kind of like I'm that 45, 50-year-old who's just starting from zero. Like what's important to me? And I started talking about the importance of just doing basic full body strength training. And they're like, oh, you mean I shouldn't go out and like run and do something else? And I'm like, hey, there's nothing against that. But your body composition, you want it to change. Right now you've got some like, you're carrying more body fat than you want. You haven't seen your muscles in a while. Like you don't know what's underneath there. The quickest way for you to connect with that is to go get a pump. Even if you've got some layers of body fat on you, you go get a pump on, your tissue's gonna swell. You're gonna feel your skin get tight. You're gonna see a bump where you didn't see it before. And it's only temporary. The pump's gonna go away in, a few hours, maybe 24 hours. But for now, you feel it, you see it, and you're like, oh yeah, there's something in there. There's something that I know is coming soon if I stick to the plan. It's almost like instant gratification for somebody who's starting training, because everyone needs a little bit of a quick result to stay motivated. And if they're going to the gym and they do a pump, a pump session or something that's like conducive of getting good blood flow to their muscle, then versus like doing ones and twos on, a heavy lift, but you give them something that gets them set up for that. They're relatively new to training. They still are carrying too much body fat, but they're like, oh wow, I'm feeling that. And that is like highly motivating for somebody who's relatively new.
Yeah, I heard Huberman and Galpin talk about this.
Oh, okay.
On that 6-part series they did.
Yes.
And they talked about the importance of the pump more so from like this mental, emotional confidence booster standpoint, where it's the one activity, bodybuilding, hypertrophy, that you can do that you almost get a transient lens into the future of potentially what you could look like if you kept training.
Oh, wow.
And you don't really experience that anywhere else, where you go in, you work out, you get a pump, you look bigger, you feel bigger. And it's this connection of, this is what I could look like with 5 more pounds of muscle.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's cool to hear that, other people are explaining it in their own unique ways. And it makes me go back to when I was, when I was 14, my brother was 16 and he's driving and we're going to the Gold's Gym together. And we had this pickup truck, which was awesome at the time. We'd get done with the gym and we weren't like ripped or shredded. Like we were just, teenage kids, but we were leaving the gym pumped. And we would always get in the car, take off our shirts, roll the windows down, just vibing, feeling so, just that confidence. We'd turn on, we had a song we would turn on. I think it was like Ice Cube's, like Pushing Rhymes Like Weight. It was like a very old song. But we would just like we'd be feeling so confident and so good. And just like that, I remember those memories were like, yep, like I want to go back to the gym because I'm feeling this right now. Even though I don't see the, I hadn't realized my actual potential yet, but I could feel something was coming.
Oh yeah, one of my favorite things to do, like before we started recording this episode, I was telling you, come in this gym late at night, garage doors up, music blaring. That drive back from the workout to my house, windows down, humidity rolling in, AC blasting. It's just like it's a different feel. And the only way to experience it is post-workout.